Well, Black Democrats are suing the city of Chicago because of illegal immigrants. This highlights something that many conservative thinkers, such as Candace Owens, Douglas Murray, us on this show, have been saying for a long time, that making Black neighborhoods unsafe is not compassionate, it's racist. This is real racism, not microaggressions. Allowing people to get away with crimes in low-income neighborhoods is terror and torture to the Black communities that live there. And Black Democratic voters are saying they've had enough of this. Now, you can say, oh, yes, but we care about migrants, bring them all in. But most people who say that are what's called a NIMBY. That's an acronym for not in my backyard. So, yeah, bring them in, but I don't necessarily want to see them, right? Let other poor neighborhoods absorb them in those poor neighborhoods because they're among their own, poor people. The people who say this on a Twitter account because they have an office job, am an upwardly mobile person. I should not have to see this, right? But all those other people who are not upwardly mobile, they can absorb them. That's how this is playing out, as we were warned. This group of Black people suing the city, this was a story highlighted in the Free Press. And it was a feature that I want to say, I think it's worth reading if you're a subscriber. It's a wonderful piece. I want to let this first woman, Kata Truss, say it for herself. She says, "How dare you?" This was her reaction. 57-year-old mother on the west side of Chicago, when she found out who was behind this push to turn her neighborhood park into a shelter for migrants, the Democrats she helped elect. She said, all these people, I've supported every single one of them. And I was like, are you freaking kidding me? She said this park where they wanted to put a migrant center, she says this was the crown jewel of her community. And it was a great place for her when she wanted her kids to keep out of trouble. She could send them there to do sports. She says there's a humanitarian crisis in the Black community, but every time we have a need in our community, we're told there's no funds, there's no money for us. So then how does it feel when 35,000 migrants come to Chicago? They're offered resources like their laundry done, mental health care screening, free health care, and $15,000 each in rental assistance. How does that feel? When you're told your school needs stuff, we can't afford it, but here's some brand new people. This is breaking your social contract with the government, right? You pay into your taxes so that you get things out, but they're paying into a system, working into a system, allowing the government to take out of their paychecks, getting nothing in return, told there's nothing there, and then new people come in who haven't been paying and they get stuff. You see how it's not a matter of like, is it right? Is it fair? It's a breaking of the social contract. Now, this woman, she got wind that her neighborhood park was about to become a center, and she raced down to the courthouse with her neighbors and the local NAACP rep, and she filed a lawsuit that she wrote out on a notebook, which is her right to do. The Free Press points out how this is really starting to have a big effect on Democratic politics. Says the crisis is leading Democrats to turn on their own party. I spoke with 18 of them in Chicago, including a restorative justice advocate and a former Obama intern. Some of them even said, if we skip down, that they're thinking of voting for Donald Trump. It's a phenomenon that's been reflected in national polls, with Trump on the track to win nearly a quarter of the Black voters in key battleground states. That means that a fifth of Black voters who voted for Biden by a margin of 92% in 2020 could turn their back on the president. And this man here, he says, they're giving the migrants all the things we've been asking for since we came here in chains. It's an interesting question, right? Why one group over another? This guy says that he is a DEI consultant and a proponent. So, I mean, this is a liberal guy, right? Even ran as a Democrat. And he says what the Democratic Party doesn't want Black people to hear is that this is a Biden policy. Biden is allowing the borders to remain open. Now, I don't know how that's news to anybody because their neighborhood was not inundated with immigrants under Trump. You have to be able to connect the dots. He's saying that, to the media, this is a secret. I'm thinking that secret's out. Seems like people in this neighborhood knows. Their local Democratic electors are not happy or not helping. Last year, the city announced that a building that was slated to be a local community center would be turned into a migrant center. This here, years ago under Rahm Emanuel, they closed this school because they didn't have the money to run it as a school. They were going to turn it over to the community as a community center. Now, all of a sudden, the city found some money to run it as a migrant center. So how does that feel?
Flip the couch cushions over. You find all kinds of money available for them.
You have to imagine if you're an advocate for a hurting community and you're told there's nothing here for you, how does this feel?
Well, it's also a bit of a smack in the face to the homeless crisis, because it's like you could have had all this money to help homeless people and you're going to put migrants in there instead. And these homeless people are still on the streets.
Yes.
Yeah,
right.
But no, those are Americans. So those are American homeless. But if you came across the southern border all the way up from Ecuador, all the way through the Darien Gap and came across into America illegally, then you get the services.
I mean, hey, maybe that's what homeless people should do. Leave through California, go down through Arizona, come over and come back up through the border, and you'll get housing. It
would be amazing to know how many like veterans are taken care of in Chicago, people who, don't get the services they need. Homeless people, homeless veterans in Chicago that aren't getting the services they need, the policing that's been underfunded, the school system that's been underfunded. Yeah. I mean, I saw, Kamala Harris is out there pushing these, we're pushing $1 billion to redo all like school systems with their electric buses.
Right.
So kids can have electric school buses. Like, that's a priority.
Yeah.
Let's fund that and illegal immigrants, but not actually help the schools.
Well, this one man says, my kids walk past a school that was an elementary school and was closed because of funding. Now it's been handed over to migrants. That feels awful to walk past that school knowing that you paid your taxes, but the government mismanaged that money and couldn't keep that school open. But they found it for another group, right? This is racism. You guys, you're choosing one group over another. I don't know how else. Like, we're so fixated on microaggressions and whether or not certain things are racism that when the most blatant racism is staring us in the face and we're saying, screw you, black people, just you absorb these migrants in your community. We don't care if you're uncomfortable.
It's Democrats doing it. Democrats who love to be out there on Black Lives Matter. Where's Nancy Pelosi kneeling? Wearing some sort of an African robe or something like that, kneeling and, George Floyd protests. Like, we're so concerned about the black community until it's necessary to be concerned about the black community.
Right. And there's this underlying assumption that people in these poorer communities live uncomfortably anyway. And we could just turn our nose up and like, what do you care if there's some, Hispanic people pooping on the sidewalk? You already live in squalor, right? That is racist. It's a totally racist thing to think that you can just like make miserable people more miserable and not have to see it. It's racist and elitist. The Free Press says that at least 3 of these lawsuits have been successful and several migrant centers were stopped in these neighborhoods. Again, Candace Owen has been saying this for a long time, that Democrats use black people. And they're wrong to believe their rhetoric because this is proof positive. I think this highlights how it's not really a right or left issue. It's an issue of the social contract. You don't pay taxes in order to bring in new people who get perks that you are then denied. And these are like the school bit is a part of the social contract. We pay into our taxes in order to get school, right? We're not talking about, what do we call these? Social funds, like extras, people who draw off the government.
What, entitlements?
Entitlement programs. That's the word. We're not talking about entitlement. School is not an entitlement program, right? That's not what this is. They go to work. They have taxes taken out of their paycheck. School is the base level thing we should be assuming that they get. And those schools are closed and turned into migrant centers. And, anyone who says that we as a country should just lovingly absorb these migrants are usually the people who don't have to lift a finger or make a change.
And the migrants are getting the premium treatment. They're getting medical, they're getting their food, they're getting everything that they need is if they want genital reconstruction surgery, like anything they want or need, they're getting free of charge on the taxpayer back.
Yeah.
Yeah, in California. Yeah, I mean, what I think the first of the year in California, they're now getting full health care in California, illegal immigrants in California.
Right, which includes transgender surgeries and cross-sex hormones, right? Because that's a priority. I mean, imagine living in Oakland and you can't even get, your kids can't get pencils and erasers and books, and their schools are being closed down, and then a migrant walks by with boobs, right, that you paid for. Come on, you guys.
Well, and you see In-N-Out Burger is closing in Oakland.
You did that, yeah, like
because of crime.
That's why we can't have nice things.
You closed an In-N-Out Burger because of your crime, your criminality.
Right. And so here is how now all of a sudden upwardly mobile New York City residents are having to deal with this as well and becoming increasingly vocal. They say that New York City has turned into a giant toilet as migrants litter the park with poop and leave cups of urine on doorsteps. Now, I am choosing not to show you. This New York Post article had some gnarly photos, and I don't know if you're eating or not, so I'm not going to show it to you. If you'd like to see overflowing porta potties and other gross stuff, seek out this New York Post headline.
No, I'm more interested in the New York Post headline above that. That's actually not, which is the one, if you want to, which is these 4 smoldering zodiac signs will have the most sex in 2024.
I don't know. I didn't click it.
That's better than the poop on the doorsteps.
I'm betting you Sagittarius is on there because it's going to be a good year.
Okay.
Yep. I'm one too. So
I'm hoping. Open Capricorn.
All right.